Have you ever asked yourself, why do bad things happen to good people? Why is it that sometimes, no matter how kind, sincere, or hardworking you are, life still hands you loss, disappointment, and pain? Is it because you're just unlucky? Or maybe fate simply refuses to smile your way? That question, though it sounds simple, has kept many of us awake at night. And yet, at some point, when looking back over your life, something strange happens. You begin to see that the worst moments often lead to the best things. The job you once grieved, the relationship you let go of with a heavy heart, later turned out to be the turning point toward a deeper, more meaningful path. Maybe everything really does happen for a reason. And here's something else, quiet but powerful. We can't control everything that happens in life, but we can change how we respond. Some people suffer their whole life because they can't let go of a broken cup. Others smile because they always knew the cup would break one day, and they cherished it while it lasted. That's not giving up. That's a deeper wisdom about impermanence, karma, and acceptance. 3 stories, 3 different moments in life, yet they all meet at the same point. Everything that happens carries a lesson, a message, a shift. Not to punish you, but to guide you toward where you're meant to be: peace, wisdom, and awakening. So, what truth lies behind our difficulties? How can we look at life with understanding instead of resentment? And how do we trust that, even in the middle of chaos, there's still an unseen hand leading us forward? In today's video, we'll explore the Buddhist teachings on karma, impermanence, and the deeper reasons behind why things happen the way they do. Let's take that journey together with a quiet heart, but an open mind. 1. Everything happens for a reason. It's not just luck or fate. Have you ever sat alone on a quiet night, looked back at your life, and whispered to yourself, why did that have to happen to me? A job lost. A door closed. Someone walked away without a word. That pain isn't just emotional. It shakes your beliefs. You think, if I've lived kindly, why does life still hurt me? And when life doesn't reward kindness the way we expect, that belief breaks. The world starts to feel unfair, like everything's just a roll of the dice. But in the light of the Buddhist teachings, there's a deeper truth, one that also brings relief. Nothing is random. Everything has a cause. When a seed is planted, we can't expect it to bloom overnight. It needs sunlight, water, time, and one day, it flowers. Life works the same way. Every event, big or small, is the result of seeds we've planted in the past. Through our thoughts, our words, our actions. In the middle-length discourses, the Buddha taught, beings are the owners of their actions, the heirs of their actions, born from their actions, related through their actions, and supported by their actions. In simple terms, what we experience today isn't random, not because we're too good for this world or because the world is cruel, but because life moves according to a simple yet fair law: cause and effect. If we plant a seed, one day it will grow. Someone who's hurt others with words may later feel misunderstood or attacked. Someone who offered help during another's hardship might one day find themselves lifted by support from unexpected places. These aren't coincidences. Like tossing a stone into a pond, you may not see the stone, but you'll definitely see the ripples. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? A Buddhist might ask, what is this the result of? And even deeper, what is this moment trying to teach me? What new seed should I be planting now? There's a beautiful story from Zen tradition. One autumn day, a wise Zen master was walking with his student through a forest covered in golden leaves. The air was crisp, silence deep. The student asked, "Master, life feels so unpredictable, so unfair. I try to be good, but things still go wrong. Why?" The master stopped, bent down, and picked up a leaf that had just fallen. He said, "You see this leaf? You think it fell by chance. But the truth is, from the moment it was green on the branch, it already carried the signs of its fall. Every drop of dew, every breeze, every ray of sun shaped this moment. It didn't fall by accident. It fell right on time." Then he looked into the student's eyes and said, "You are the same. What you're going through, whether painful or sweet, is the ripening of countless causes and conditions. It's not punishment. It's not rejection. It's just the leaf falling when it's ready. A simple moment, but one that stays with many for life. Once this truth sinks in, something shifts. We stop blaming the world and begin turning inward, asking ourselves how we're showing up, how we're planting seeds through our thoughts, speech, and actions. And that's the beauty of the law of karma. It doesn't shame. It doesn't scare. It doesn't weigh us down. Instead, it offers hope, because it reminds us that if we start planting good seeds today, even in silence, then good things will bloom in time. There was once a Buddhist practitioner at a retreat in California. She said, "I used to believe life was unfair, but then I realized nothing comes to hurt me. Everything that comes is here to wake something up inside me. And when I changed the way I saw things, I realized everything happens for a reason." That could be anyone's story. Someone going through a divorce. Someone who just left a job they thought they'd have forever. Someone facing loneliness, illness, or an unspoken kind of grief. None of us are immune to suffering, but all of us can learn how to move through it with understanding, patience, and a heart that no longer resents the journey. And once we understand, deep down, that everything has a cause, we stop treating life like a game of chance. We begin to see it as a river of karma, flowing with quiet, unseen precision. From there, we soften. We fear less. We stop asking why life isn't going our way, because we start to see maybe everything is already guiding us exactly where we need to be. 2. Every life event has meaning. When one door closes, another one opens. There are moments in life when it feels like everything is falling apart. A relationship ends. A long-held career dream crumbles. A medical diagnosis shakes you to your core. And the first question that comes up almost instinctively is, why is this happening to me? Why now? But what if just for a moment you paused and asked a different question instead of why? What if you asked, what is this trying to teach me? It might sound philosophical at first, but really, it's often the only way to not be crushed under the weight of hardship. There was a woman who shared her story during an afternoon meditation session in Santa Fe. She had worked at a media company for 15 years. She loved her job, loved her team, and truly believed she'd be there for life. Then, a sudden restructuring happened, and she was let go. She said, "At that moment, I felt betrayed, like life had ripped away something precious from me." But during those months of unemployment, something shifted. She began taking morning walks, practiced yoga, wrote in a journal things she'd never made time for when life was hectic. And through those handwritten pages, she discovered a passion for storytelling. A few years later, she became a beloved writer for a well-known mindfulness magazine. With tears in her eyes, she said, "If I hadn't lost that job, I never would have found the truest version of myself." That story isn't rare. In Buddhist teachings, this is what we call karma transformation, when something that appears to be a painful result actually becomes the seed of a better path, if we're willing to turn inward and learn from it. The Buddha once said, "Whatever comes into your life is here to teach you something, and whatever leaves also has a lesson to offer. Nothing is meaningless. Nothing is wasted." In fact, what we often call a loss might simply be life filtering out what no longer serves us. A relationship ends and makes room for you to grow into a better version of yourself. A closed door redirects you to a quieter pathone that may not be glamorous, but feels more aligned with your soul. There's a beautiful Zen saying, "Every step backward is preparing you for a greater leap forward." The thing is, when you're in the middle of that backward step, it rarely feels that way. It just feels dark, exhausting, like everything's slipping through your hands. And it's easy to fall into despair, resentment, or even lose faith in the path ahead. But just like walking through a dark forest at night, your eyes need time to adjust to the shadows. So does your heart. It needs space to recognize the light hidden behind each challenge. There's a story from a Tibetan teacher about a wooden bracelet he always wears. It's not expensive, not ornate, but it has a visible crack. Someone once asked, "Why do you wear something that's broken? What if it falls apart?" He smiled and replied, "Because of the crack, I remember that everything is fragile, and because of the crack, I appreciate it more while it's still whole." That simple answer holds a profound truth. Not everything that breaks is meant to take something from you. Sometimes, it's just a reminder to live more fully with what you have while you still have it. A closed door is never the end. It's a quiet nudge. Life is leading you somewhere else. Maybe somewhere softer, maybe smaller, quieter, maybe with fewer spotlights. But perhaps it's closer to your real self, your real calling. I've met so many people in their 40s, 50s, even 60s who say, "It was my divorce, my bankruptcy, my illness that opened the door to the spiritual path. Before that, they were too busy to stop, too caught up in running, to look within." But when life finally paused, they began to ask the real questions. What am I really living for? Where am I going? And most importantly, who am I without the titles, the roles, the money, the relationships? These answers don't come overnight, but the journey to find them, that's the real treasure. So if something in your life is falling apart right now, please don't be so quick to label it as bad. It might just be a turning point, a redirection, a calling that's too quiet to understand right away. And if you can stay patient, stay still, one day you might look back and say, "Oh, that wasn't the end. That was actually the beginning." So instead of resisting life, try listening, because every ending comes with a message. Every fall hides a lesson. Every closed door is an invitation to something new, something deeper. 3. Letting go of attachment so we stop hurting ourselves. There's a truth in life that most of us only begin to understand once our heart has been broken enough times. The deepest pain doesn't come from others. It comes from the attachment within us. I know, that's not easy to hear, especially when you've just been betrayed, when someone mistreated you, disrespected you, or walked away when you were at your most vulnerable. In those moments, it feels like you're the victim. They hurt you, they left you, they said something cruel. But if we sit in stillness long enough, a quiet realization begins to surface. Yes, people can say painful things, but it's our attachment to those words that turns pain into suffering. If we can let go, it becomes just a passing breeze. If we hold on, it becomes a thorn we carry in our heart, poking us again and again, day after day. The Buddha gave a beautiful metaphor. Imagine someone gets shot by an arrow. Instead of removing it, they fire a second arrow into the same wound because of anger, blame, or resistance to what already happened. That second arrow is attachment. It's our refusal to accept that life didn't go the way we wanted. It's our demand that others behave according to our script. I remember during a retreat in Oregon, a middle-aged man stood up with tears in his eyes. He said, "My wife betrayed me. After 20 years, she left. I'm in so much pain, but the part that hurts the most is feeling abandoned without a reason. How do I forgive? How do I move on?" There was no moralizing, no lecture, just one gentle reflection offered in response. If you can let go of the belief that people must be loyal to you, the pain will start to ease. Not because betrayal is okay, but because you understand you can't control someone else's heart. You can only hold and heal your own. When we stop demanding that others act a certain way, when we stop forcing life to go our way, we touch a kind of freedom that goes beyond logic. There's a saying worth remembering. Others may push you, but only you decide if you fall. The truth is, we all get hurt. We all get misunderstood, judged, or left behind at some point. But some people carry that pain for years. Others take a deep breath and move on. The difference? One holds on to resentment, wanting justice, wanting life to make it right. The other accepts everything is impermanent. And no one, not even those we love, can be controlled. Once we see this clearly, the heart softens. Not because life becomes easy, but because we stop struggling to bend it to our will. A Zen master once said something that made a whole room fall silent. No one can hurt you unless you hold on to it too long in your heart. That doesn't mean denying our emotions. Pain is real. The Buddha never told us to pretend it isn't, but he did teach us to see it clearly, to release it, to not let emotions become the prison we lock ourselves inside for years. It's like holding a burning coal, intending to throw it at someone, but the first person to get burned is us. And attachment isn't just to people. It's to expectations, to failed plans, to ideas like, "I must be the good one. I'm not supposed to fail. I deserve better than this." These silent clings are what create the deepest suffering. And letting go doesn't mean giving up. Letting go means understanding that we don't control everything. Life has its own flow. And sometimes, the safest thing we can do, learn to flow with it. Once, someone asked the Buddha, "You teach letting go, but it's so hard. How do I not feel hurt when people insult me?" The Buddha didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, "If someone brings you a gift and you don't accept it, who does it belong to?" The man replied, "To the one who brought it." The Buddha smiled. Just like that, if someone offers insult and you don't take it in, it still belongs to them, not to you. That moment changed the man. And many others since who've learned to stop accepting gifts they didn't ask for. True freedom doesn't come from changing others. It comes from changing how we receive things within ourselves. Freedom isn't about never being hurt again. It's about knowing, I don't have to hold on to it. We can exhale and walk on with a lighter heart. 4. Pain, a gentle invitation to come home to yourself. There are moments in life when no words of encouragement seem to help. In those moments, the world suddenly feels strangely quiet. No one really understands you. No one walks beside you. And somehow, even you don't quite recognize who you are anymore. That's how pain arrives. It doesn't knock. It doesn't warn you. And it spares no one. But here's the strange thing. In our most painful hours, life is quietly whispering something. A gentle invitation. Come home. I remember a woman once shared her story during an evening meditation session in Colorado. Her husband had died in a car accident, so sudden, so fast, that she never got to say goodbye. The months that followed were like living as a shadow. No purpose, no emotion, no faith in anything. Everyone around her kept saying, "Be strong." But what she really wanted was just silence. And to be left alone. One day, she walked into a temple, not because of religion, but simply because it was quiet enough to hear her own heartbeat. She sat on a small meditation cushion, staring at a candle flickering in the dark. And for the first time in months, she didn't try to escape her pain. She just sat, breathed in, breathed out, and looked directly at the loss. No running, no pretending. And then she cried. But this time, her tears were different. Not of resistance, but of release, of acceptance. She said, "It's strange. When I stopped fighting the pain, it led me back to the deepest part of myself." In Buddhist teachings, there's a beautiful phrase, mindfulness of suffering, or nirmko. It doesn't mean torturing ourselves. It means being deeply present. Where does this pain come from? What inside me is it trying to reveal? The Buddha never taught us that spiritual practice is about avoiding suffering. He taught that suffering is the path. It's the lesson. It's the doorway inward. Because in happiness, it's so easy to forget. We chase comfort, status, and stability. And we think, this is who I am. But when it all falls away, that's when the real questions appear. Who am I? If that person is no longer beside me, what am I? Without my title, my possessions, my familiar role? And deeper still, what am I truly living for? Pain doesn't come to destroy us. It comes to shatter the illusions we've clung to about happiness, about others, and about ourselves. It breaks the identity we've always known, so that something deeper can be born. Some people, after a heartbreak, begin meditating every morning. They learn to listen to themselves instead of constantly pleasing others. They learn to say no, to set boundaries, to care for their own inner world, something they always avoided before because they were too busy, too strong, or thought they didn't need anyone. Turns out, pain doesn't make us weaker. It just strips away the false layers of strength. So we can return to the softness, the truth, the purity inside. The Buddha once said, "When ordinary people suffer, they blame and resist. But those on the path, they use that same suffering to reflect, to see clearly the nature of life." A true spiritual seeker doesn't run from pain. They sit with it, breathe with it, and ask gently, what is this pain trying to teach me? Sometimes it's a relationship we need to let go of, a habit we need to transform, a truth we've avoided for too long. Or maybe it's just our inner child longing to be held. And sometimes pain shows up simply to say, "Slow down, stop running, it's time to come home." Someone once asked during a Dharma talk, "How do I know if this pain I'm going through has meaning? How do I know it won't destroy me?" The answer is this: if your pain makes you deeper, quieter, and more compassionate toward yourself, then it's sacred. From that silence, a new kind of wisdom begins to grow. Not the clever kind for the outside world, but the wisdom of compassion, of acceptance, of peace that asks for nothing. So, if you're hurting right now, please don't rush yourself to get over it. Don't feel pressured to be positive or happy again or strong like before. Just allow yourself to be in it. Like someone sitting by the river, watching the current flow. And one day you'll realize that pain was never something to be feared. It was the invitation that led you home. 5. The broken cup. A lesson in impermanence. There's a Zen story you might have heard before, but every time it's told, it has a way of making us pause, fall silent. A wise teacher once handed his student a beautiful porcelain teacup. It was handcrafted, glazed with care, decorated in a simple, elegant way. The student held it gently, gazing at it with admiration and reverence. The teacher smiled and asked, "Do you like this cup?" "Yes, very much. It's perfect." And right then, without warning, the teacher let go of the cup. It fell to the stone floor and shattered. The student froze, shocked, confused, as if what just happened couldn't be real. But the teacher calmly said, "I loved that cup when it was whole, and I still love it now that it's broken. Because the moment I held it in my hand, I already knew one day it would break." That story isn't just about a teacup. It's about everything in life. Every person we love, every relationship we're attached to, every smile, every season, every fleeting moment. It's all moving, changing, fading each in its own time. In Buddhism, there's a profound truth called impermanence. It's not some high-level philosophy. It's the simple, undeniable reality of life. Whatever is born will one day end. Whatever begins will one day pass. But here's the root of our suffering. We know this with our minds, but we resist it with our hearts. We want the people we love to stay forever. We want beautiful moments to last. We want good feelings to remain unchanged. So when loss comes, we're caught off guard, hurt, struggling, like someone trying to piece back together a shattered cup, hoping it could somehow be whole again. There was an elderly woman who once came to a meditation center in Northern California. Her husband of nearly 40 years had passed from a sudden stroke. For 2 years, she visited his grave daily, offering incense, whispering through tears. She carried his old handkerchief with her everywhere, never washing it. She said, "It's the last trace of him I have left." But after attending a session on impermanence, she came to share something through quiet sobs. "Today, I finally realized that handkerchief doesn't keep him here. It's only been keeping me in the past and blinding me to the love that's still here, from my grandchildren, from my daughter who waits for me every weekend." You see, pain is never fake. But when we don't accept impermanence, we often turn our pain into a prison. The broken cup is a vivid metaphor. If we understand it, every goodbye in life becomes a little more bearable. Not because we grow cold, but because we learn to love deeper while things still exist. We begin to see that the person we cherish today might not be beside us tomorrow, that the words we hold back today might never have another chance to be said, that nothing is forever, and so every moment becomes sacred. That's not a pessimistic view. It's an awakened one, a deeply human realization. Because life is temporary, we must live it fully, lovingly, and mindfully. The Buddha once described life as a dewdrop resting on a blade of grass. So beautiful, so delicate, and yet so easily gone. And in that very fragility lies the true beauty of being alive. Some people only begin to appreciate those around them after losing someone they loved, Some only understand the depth of impermanence. After one great loss, they realize, no one truly belongs to me, and I don't truly belong to anyone. We're all just walking together for a little while on this path, and eventually, we each must continue our own journey like clouds drifting apart in the sky. The broken cup is not a tragedy. It's a reminder to love while we still can, to be grateful for every breath, and when something ends, to let it go with peace in our hearts. Not because it didn't matter, but because we understand it was here, and that was enough. It is this understanding of impermanence that keeps our hearts from growing bitter. It frees us from blame. It softens us and helps us live a life that truly cherishes what matters. 6. Suffering, not a punishment, but a silent teacher. At some point in our lives, we've all quietly asked ourselves, why do bad things happen to me? And right after that, another question whispers, am I being punished for something I did wrong? It sounds like a simple thought, but it's one that haunts many hearts, especially in the darkest moments of life. But when we look through the lens of the Buddhist teachings, suffering isn't a sentence. It's not here to punish you or bring you down. It comes like a silent teacher offering lessons you can't learn anywhere else. If you're brave enough to face it, in the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, just as fire tests gold, suffering tests the heart. A weak fire can't melt anything. Likewise, a life too comfortable rarely deepens the soul. Over the years, I've seen many people come to the path of practice. Not because life was easy, but because something broke open inside them. Losing a loved one, a marriage falling apart, a health scare that brought them face to face with death. It's not that they wanted pain, but when everything outside no longer held them up, when money, praise, success, or status began to fade, they had no choice but to turn inward. I remember an elderly man in New Jersey who shared after a Dharma talk. He had worked hard all his life, built a solid career, had wealth, respect. But after his wife of nearly 40 years passed, suddenly, he said he fell into a silence he couldn't explain. Every evening, he'd sit in front of the empty chair where she once sat. No one to talk to, no one to make afternoon tea. He said, I thought I was strong, but I realized I never learned how to be alone. And it was that very loneliness that cracked his heart open. For the first time in his life, he walked into a meditation center, not to pray for something, but just to sit, to breathe, and to finally face the pain he'd been trying to outrun. He said something that made the entire room fall silent. I'm not afraid of pain anymore, because it taught me how to listen to what's inside me. Sometimes, we don't see the meaning of hardship right away. When life collapses, our first instinct is to resist it, curse it, or try to glue the pieces back. But maybe the old life no longer fits the person we're becoming. Like coal under pressure becomes diamond, we too need to face the darkness to truly understand the light. We have to feel the full weight of loneliness to finally learn how to hold ourselves with compassion and how to hold others too. That's why, in Buddhism, suffering isn't seen as an enemy. It's seen as a teacher, one that may not comfort you, but will always point the way. And it's from those cracks in our hearts, those quiet breakdowns, that compassion begins to grow. Because once you've suffered, it's much harder to be careless with someone else's pain. You stop judging. You stop comparing who's right and who's wrong. You begin to say gently, I understand. I've been there too. That's true compassion, not born from theories or books, but from lived experience. And real wisdom? It doesn't always come from reading scriptures or hearing lofty talks. Sometimes it's born in the middle of the night, through tears no one else sees. In those moments when you think you can't go on, but somehow you do. A student once asked, "Why do we have to suffer in order to grow? Isn't there an easier way?" The answer isn't that suffering is necessary. It's that suffering is already here. So why not use it to grow? Because if we don't learn from our pain, then it's just pain. But if we do learn how to understand more, love more, let go more, then suffering is no longer just suffering. It becomes a disguised gift. So if you're going through something hard right now, please don't be quick to assume that life is punishing you. Maybe life is shaping you, forging you, turning you into a stronger, deeper, kinder version of yourself. Not by society's standards, but by your soul's. Because in the end, life is not about becoming someone great. It's about coming home to yourself, to a heart that's steady, open, and truly at peace. 7. Every good deed planted will one day bloom. There are moments in life when you do something good, and wait, but nothing seems to change. You treat someone with kindness, yet they turn their back on you. You keep putting in the effort, day after day, in silence. But life just seems indifferent. And then a thought passes through your mind. Is there really any point in doing good if nothing comes of it? But if we look a little deeper, we'll see a quiet truth. No seed is ever planted without the chance to sprout. Maybe not this season. Maybe not in the way you expected. But it's growing silently, somewhere, in a space the eye can't yet see. In Buddhism, karma isn't superstition. It's a natural law, like how a grain of rice needs sunlight, rain, time, and fertile soil to grow. You can't plant today and harvest tomorrow. You can't plant a mango seed and expect a lotus flower. Every cause produces its right effect, in its own time, in its own way, under the right conditions. The Buddha once taught, beings are the heirs of their karma. Even if they run to the sky, the sea, or the deepest mountain, they cannot escape the results of their own actions. At first, that may sound harsh, but in reality, it's a teaching full of hope. Because it also means this: if you've ever done something good, no one can take that away from you. There's a story of an old woman who lived in the suburbs of Seattle. For nearly 40 years, she worked as a janitor in a school. Quiet, diligent, unnoticed. Every morning, she arrived early to clean the halls, arrange the chairs, water the plants, even if no one asked her to. She didn't have much education. She didn't speak much. But in her eyes, there was always a quiet gentleness. When someone once asked her why she cared so much about such a small job, she just smiled and said, "Because maybe the child sitting at that clean desk will grow up to be a good person. Maybe the flower I watered today will soften the heart of a little one who just failed a test." No one expected such depth from a cleaning lady. Years later, a former student, now a famous writer, found her and said, "Seeing you water the plants in the early morning mist taught me that some people live beautifully even when no one is watching." Her seeds didn't bloom right away, but they sprouted inside someone's heart. And from that, a whole new stream of goodness flowed into the world. Maybe the hardest part of doing good isn't the doing. It's the waiting. Waiting without demanding. Waiting while staying pure. Waiting without turning kindness into calculation. Because karma doesn't work like a school report card. It doesn't arrive on schedule, but it always arrives. At the right moment, in the right form, and often in ways you don't expect. You might not get a thank you, but you might sleep more peacefully. Enjoy your meal more deeply. Look in the mirror and feel a quiet ease. And sometimes, the blessings don't return directly to you, but to your children, your loved ones. Because the seed doesn't just grow in your private field, it grows in the shared field of karma, where we're all connected. That's why the Buddha taught, do good without looking around. Just do it like someone who plants a tree, not for their own shade. Don't expect sweet fruit just for yourself, but hold faith in your heart. The fruit will come. If not soon, then later. If not clearly, then quietly. If not to you, then through you. And that makes living kindly a truly noble act, not because others notice, but because you know you're planting seeds. And every seed has its season. So if you're ever discouraged, if your kindness seems to go unnoticed, remember, seeds don't sprout because you're impatient. They sprout because the time is right. And no one lives kindly without being repaid. It just might not have happened yet. So please keep being kind. Keep planting seeds in your words, your gaze, your walk through the world. There's a Zen saying, I love. Don't worry about how much you plant. Worry whether you're planting with a true heart, because it's your intention that shapes the outcome. A single kind word, spoken from the heart, is more powerful than 100 said out of habit. Let that be your practice. 8. Letting go. It's not losing, it's opening. There are moments in life when we know we need to let go. An old relationship that's no longer healthy. An expectation that's weighed us down for years. A quiet anger we've been holding on to, like it's a badge of honor. We know, but we can't let go. Because deep down, we're afraid that if we do, we'll lose something. Lose that person. Lose our sense of control. Lose our trust. Maybe even lose a part of who we are. But through the light of the Buddha's teaching, we begin to see letting go isn't loss. Letting go is liberation. It's taking off a burden we no longer need to carry. It's stepping out of a cycle of pain that we've held onto for far too long. There's a Zen saying that goes, let go or be dragged. Sounds a bit like a warning, doesn't it? But in truth, it's a gentle reminder. When we refuse to let go, we're not being dragged by life itself. We're being dragged by the ropes we tied in our own hearts. Clinging to someone who no longer wants to stay. Clinging to an identity that no longer fits. Clinging to a past that's gone or a future that hasn't come yet. All of that creates tension, resistance, exhaustion. I once met a man in his 50s after a Dharma talk in Arizona. He used to be a successful businessman. Respected, powerful. But after a financial collapse, he lost nearly everything: his company, his home, and his confidence. Years passed. He managed to rebuild part of his life, but he still carried anger and shame like old luggage. I just can't accept that I failed, he told me. I still dream of winning it all back so I can prove I wasn't as bad as they thought. But it was that very desire to prove something that kept him stuck in the past. He told me he was often irritable, had trouble sleeping, and felt empty, even though on the outside, he had enough. Only when a Zen master quietly said to him, sometimes letting go of the goal is how you find the peace that the goal could never give you. Did he begin to understand? He didn't let go of life. He let go of the self that was clinging. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean laziness or apathy. It means accepting what you can't change and putting your energy into what you can transform. It means not letting the past cloud your present, not letting expectations distort what's actually here. Clinging to anger creates suffering. Clinging to love, even that can hurt. If love turns into attachment, clinging to being right can hurt even more. Because life doesn't always bend to our logic or sense of fairness. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, the mind is like water. When free from clinging, it becomes clear and reflects truth. But the human mind isn't usually like a calm lake. It's more like a glass full of muddy water, stirred by desire, anger, ignorance, and ego. Only when we begin to let go does the mud start to settle. Only then can the water become clear again. The truth is, we all want to feel light. But strangely, we tend to hold on to heavy things. The fear of being abandoned, the need to be better than others, the constant urge to prove we're enough. All of that, those are burdens. And letting go is setting them down. Not to become weaker, but to become steadier. Someone once asked me, how do I know when it's time to let go? There's a simple sign. If something is costing you your sleep, your peace, or your present moment, it may be time to let go. Not because it doesn't matter, but because your heart is paying too high a price for something no longer healthy. And when you finally let go, you create space for something new. Just like a cluttered room, if you don't clear out the old, the new can't find its way in. Letting go is also a form of trust. Trusting that we don't need to control everything to live fully. Trusting that what leaves our life was meant to leave. Trusting that real peace doesn't come from having more, but from knowing when to stop and when enough is enough. Some people live simply, say little, don't argue, but their eyes shine because there's lightness in them. And that peace doesn't come from years of practice, but from having let go enough. If you're holding on to something too tightly, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this still nourishing me or is it dragging me down? If it's nourishing, hold it with care. But if it's dragging you, maybe it's time to walk in a new direction. Because in truth, letting go isn't the end. It's the beginning. The beginning of a life that is calmer, more open, and quietly strong from the inside out. 9. Trusting the flow of cause and condition, because not everything that happens today is bad. Have you ever gone through something that felt like a failure? A loss, a disappointment. But years later, when you looked back, you realized it was actually the best thing that could have happened? It's almost like life knew better than you did. What was truly right for you? Only back then, you weren't still enough to see it. In Buddhist practice, there's something we hold very dear. Trust in causes and conditions, in the natural flow of karma and timing. It's not about leaving everything up to fate. It's a peaceful trust that everything that happens has a reason. Every person who enters our life comes with a connection. And even what we lose, even what breaks, is not outside the vast and mysterious current of cause and effect. I once met a young man who was devastated after being rejected from a job he had long dreamed of. It was his ideal role. He had prepared for months. He was sure he had it. But someone else got it. He was angry at himself, at life. He felt like all his effort had gone to waste. But just 6 months later, that same company faced a major scandal and had to lay off most of its staff. The person who got the job, they were the first to be let go. And the young man? In that time of disappointment, he began learning a new skill and soon found work in a much better environment. He told me, back then I thought life was rejecting me. But now I realize it was protecting me in a way I didn't yet understand. That's the mystery of causes and conditions. There's what we can see now and what we can only see with time. Right now, it may look like pain, but later, we'll see it was the most precise arrangement. Right now, it may feel like abandonment, but time reveals we were being returned to ourselves. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha spoke of the deep interconnection between all things. Nothing happens in isolation. Every event is influenced by countless conditions, our past thoughts, words, and actions, the environment we're in, and even the karma of others around us. So if something doesn't go the way we hope today, it doesn't mean it was wrong. It may be a necessary detour, one that keeps us from walking into places not meant for us. A young woman once came to the temple, sobbing. She had just ended a 4-year relationship and said, "I gave everything. I thought he was the one. But even so, I couldn't hold on to him." An older nun sat beside her. She didn't say, "You'll find someone better." She simply asked, "Before you met him, were you okay?" The woman nodded. The nun gently said, "Then now, return to that okay." There were no promises for the future, just a quiet reminder to return to wholeness and to trust that cause and condition. Never forget, sometimes we must learn the lesson before the next door can open. In life, we sometimes look at others and think they're lucky. They married someone wealthy, well-respected, but 5 years later, we learn they've been suffering, controlled, isolated, with no real freedom. Meanwhile, someone else may have chosen a simple life, one filled with struggle in the beginning. But years later, they're surrounded by warmth, happy children, and a peaceful heart. We can't judge a life by just one scene, just like we can't judge a book by the first few pages. That's why in Buddhism, there's something called wise knowing over time. It means we don't define truth by emotions in the moment, but by seeing things calmly over the arc of years. When we trust in causes and conditions, we no longer panic. We no longer demand that life shows up in a certain way at a certain time. Instead, we live more steadily, more quietly. We understand. If something hasn't arrived, the causes aren't ready. If someone walks away, their journey is no longer aligned with ours. And if today brings a storm, maybe, it's life pulling us away from a bigger disaster we never saw coming. Who knows? There's a beautiful quote by Ajahn Chah: "Trust in impermanence, not to give up, but to stop clinging." When we understand that everything is interdependent, we stop blaming so much. We stop blaming people. We stop blaming the universe. We stop blaming ourselves. And we begin to live each day more fully, doing what's right, keeping a kind heart, and letting the current of wise causes take care of the rest. And then one day, maybe months later, maybe years, we'll look back and say, "Ah, now I understand. I was never abandoned. I was simply being guided." 10. Pain is temporary and can bloom into the fruit of awakening. There are days when you don't want to talk, don't want to hear anyone else talk. You just want to sit quietly in a dark corner and let the tears fall. Not because you're weak, but because some pain is just too deep to name. Some say suffering is inevitable in life, but the truth is, pain doesn't last forever. It comes like a rainstorm. It may pour down, drenching your spirit, but eventually, the rain stops. The sun rises again. The sky clears. The question isn't, how can I avoid pain? It's, when pain shows up, can I meet it with mindfulness, with understanding? Can I allow it to become something deeper? At a Dharma talk in a New York meditation center, a woman once shared her story. Within 18 months, she lost nearly everything: her marriage, a loved one, her job. Each morning, she woke up with a heavy chest, no appetite, no desire to leave the house. Then, one winter morning, Sitting by the window, watching the snow fall, she noticed something strange. No matter how cold it was, the snowflakes fell gently, not rushed, not resisting. That moment changed her. She began sitting quietly for 10 minutes each day, not to fix anything, just to listen to herself. At first, she feared the silence, but slowly, she learned to be still with it. She stopped fighting the pain. She just sat with it without blame. A year later, she came back to that same meditation center and said, "I still feel pain, but I'm no longer crushed by it. I feel it, but I also feel something deeper in me. I know now I'm moving through the storm, not stuck in it." That's exactly what the Buddha taught. When mindfulness is present, pain is not the enemy. It becomes the path to wisdom. Everyone hurts, but no one has to suffer forever. Pain is a natural feeling. It may be our first response to loss, but it's not our fate. It can be transformed if we see it through the light of understanding. One of the most powerful images in Buddhism is the lotus flower. Why? Because it grows from the mud, not from clear water. The lotus doesn't deny the mud. It embraces it, rises through it, and blooms. Every pain we experience is like that mud. If we only see it with bitterness, it pulls us under. But if we see it with mindfulness and the quiet trust that everything can be transformed, then from that very mud, awakening can blossom. Someone once asked during a meditation class, "How do I know if I'm truly transforming my pain, not just suppressing it?" The answer? When the pain no longer makes you angry, when you stop needing someone to blame, when you no longer wear a mask of strength, but can look at your pain, understand it, and smile gently. Transformation doesn't mean pain is gone. It means we're no longer afraid of it. We're grateful for it because it made us kinder, wiser, more grounded. There's a beautiful line in the Anguttara Nikaya. Just like the earth accepts both waste and flowers, yet remains steady, that's how our heart should be. Able to receive everything and still stay true. Every deep sorrow teaches us this. Nothing lasts forever, not even suffering. And if it must pass anyway, why not welcome it instead of resisting it? Mindfulness isn't a tool to get rid of pain. It's a light so we can see pain clearly without being swept away. Someone who's lost a loved one, if living mindfully, will understand. Yes, they're gone, but love doesn't die. Their memory lives on in every kind act we pass on to others. Someone who's been hurt in the past, if living mindfully, will realize they don't have to stay stuck in that past. Right here, from this very place, they can begin again. And one day, when the storm has passed, when the tears have dried, you'll realize you didn't just survive the pain. You grew from it, like grass after the rain, like dawn after a long night, like a seeker's heart clearer each time it returns home. And now, perhaps we've walked far enough together to see every hardship, whether a gentle rain or a fierce storm, carries a deeper message. Maybe it's a call to come home to yourself. Maybe it's an invitation to let go of what no longer fits. Or maybe it's just life whispering softly, trust the flow of causes and conditions. Believe that pain, too, will pass. In the end, it's not our circumstances that keep us stuck. It's the lens we're looking through. When that lens is lit by mindfulness and wisdom, even the deepest wounds can become the soil for awakening. And if there's one thing worth carrying forward from all this, it might be everything happens for a reason, and that reason is always calling us toward a deeper awakening of the heart. If today's reflection speaks to you, please subscribe to Buddhism Seeds to keep walking this path together, one mindful step at a time. Don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. What are you going through? What have you grown from? Your story might just be the light someone else needs. Wishing you steadiness even in a world of change. See you in the next Dharma Talk.